So, I spend so much of my time exposing serious organized criminal activity in Vienna regarding the systemic sexual exploitation of female minors, schoolgirls. I spend so much of my time exposing how the Viennese police are facilitating it, how the Viennese police are corrupt, how the Viennese police are grossly incompetent, how a specific school in the 22nd district of Vienna is failing catastrophically, regarding the safeguarding of its female students enrolled and within their school system for 7 years, schoolgirls who are incrementally transactionalized, adultified. Essentially, by age 17, they're engaging in prostitution. Kinderschutz, child and youth welfare. I spend so much of my time exposing blatant criminal activity, sex trafficking, child prostitution, police misconduct, incompetence, corruption, all pertaining ultimately to the same thing: organized systemic exploitation of these schoolgirls and all the systems around these schoolgirls that are entrusted to protect them. Yet what I very rarely do is talk about how the police treated me, how they failed me. And that's a question that needs to be asked and a question that needs to be answered. So if we look at what I've been through, I've been exposed to so much traumatizing information that I've had to process. I've had to recognize and discern what it is that I'm seeing, the grooming, the exploitation. I've had to piece all of it together, process it. I've had to identify the mechanisms. I've had to identify the psychological drivers of the victims, analyze risk profiles, cumulative risk stack, vulnerability stack. I've had to preserve all of the evidence, organize all of the evidence. I've had to organize everything. I've had to process all of this information longitudinally, present a chronology, organize it in a way that is efficient, metabolic, digestible, so that it can be transferred to the appropriate authorities. I do not have the authority nor the resources to deal with this myself, so all of my focus goes into organizing this information so that it can be transferred to the appropriate authorities, who can then take that information, that evidence, and act accordingly. Now, the amount of information on its own, the context of all that information, it's deeply disturbing, traumatizing. Having to relive this every single day, having to process this, having to analyze this, psychologically, that is profoundly destabilizing. But also then knowing the females personally, the victims personally, and I'm emotionally involved, and how deeply that affects me, that makes it even more traumatic for me. And then the pressure on me as the sole witness. Like I've mentioned before, sexual exploitation, grooming, organized crime, it's compartmentalized. People see fragments. Incidents at school, teachers may observe it. At home, parents may recognize things, but they're only seeing fragments. I'm in a unique position where I'm both inside the system and outside the system, and I've been able to see every fragment across multiple domains, longitudinally. And I'm the only one who sees the full picture. That's an unbelievable burden. The pressure on me, ethically, legally, the responsibility. Then we have to consider the abuse that I receive, the threats to my life, sustained character assassination attempts, cyber surveillance, social isolation, my family being attacked, gaslit, month after month after month, having my reality inverted, through sustained gaslighting, extreme gaslighting. And I somehow managed to keep myself anchored in reality despite all of this. Now, everything that I'm facing, it's unbelievable that I'm having to deal with all of this. I'm tired of death threats. I'm tired of being cyber surveilled. You know, in the process of all of this, there's fake social media accounts attacking me, calling me a groomer, when I know that I'm the one here trying to expose grooming. And here's what's interesting. I'm being called a groomer, yet I can see that what's happening is systemic organized sexual exploitation of females involving many predatory men. I'm witnessing the grooming, yet I'm being targeted and called a groomer. It makes no sense, right? Well, if you're defending an environment of sexual exploitation, what better way to defend it than completely invert reality? But, you know, on top of that and on top of death threats, I'm tired of being called homosexual. I'm tired of being called autistic as fuck, schizophrenic, delusional, disgusting, that Jesus despises me, and that I'm not a real man, having my status, my masculinity attacked, having my own religion weaponized against me, having my own mother called a prostitute, attempts to extort money from me, completely socially isolated. I cannot talk to people on social media, friends, because I cannot bring them into this situation. I'm just tired of everything. It's just so much, right? So I go to this police station. I fly to Vienna because I've been put in a position where legally and ethically I have to act. I cannot ignore what I know, especially when victims are reaching out to me saying, help, I'm not okay, I'm not safe. It puts me in a position where I can't look the other way any longer. And I know that the child protective services, the police, they're not doing it. They're not acting. So these schoolgirls are in danger. And so I have to go. But then upon going, victims themselves threatening my life. You should be very scared to set foot on Austrian soil. Whatever happens to you here is your choice. Your address is known to us. If we want to kill you, we could have you killed. You know, I go to Vienna. I'm potentially monitored. While I'm in Vienna, I have my life threatened again. I go to the police station as an informant after months and months of assembling all of this information. I'm going through the appropriate channels. I knock on their door. I hand them a note. It's written in Austrian German, using police terminology, so that they can understand, they can comprehend the situation immediately. Terminology that they will understand. This is the first point of contact. It has to be as efficient as possible. And they read it and say, yes, but you will have to wait. Goes back inside. Leaves me out in the street for 50 minutes. Another officer comes to the door 50 minutes later. That's almost an hour later. 50, not 15. Yes, how may I help you? So the first officer told me to wait, goes back inside, does not communicate with any of his colleagues that I'm outside. There's an informant here claiming he's had internal access to organized systemic grooming and sexual exploitation of children, schoolgirls, attempted sex trafficking, child prostitution, organized crime, movement of controlled substances. You need to refer to my other videos to understand the complexity, the enormity of the situation. But ultimately, at the bottom of the note, it stresses that I've had my life threatened. My life is potentially in danger by even being here. I'm here great personal cost. And I explicitly communicate that my life has been threatened not 30 minutes before coming to that station. Ultimately, they leave me outside on the street for 2 fucking hours. And I could have been stabbed and fatally injured within 5 minutes of just being stood out there. They left me stood out on the street. Forget everything that I was there to report as an informant. I'm there as a civilian in danger. And they left me on the street for 2 hours. Now, of course, if you go refer to my other videos, you absorb everything that occurred during the interview process. You can understand exactly why I believe that this is blatant misconduct, concealment, and corruption. But ultimately, at no point was my safety considered. And so I have to mention it again myself. But they're systematically dismissing so many crimes within crimes regarding the grooming network, the grooming pipeline, sexual exploitation of these females, instrumentalizing the age of consent to minimize, reframe, and dismiss everything. So it gets to the end of the interview, and I'm like, what about me? For example, my life was threatened 30 minutes before coming to this station. Was the weapon drawn? Well, no, but nothing we can do. But this isn't an isolated incident. I've had multiple people making threats against my life. I've been targeted for months by citizens of your state. People attempting to extort money from me. Gaslighting me. Attacking my sexuality, my neurotype, my family. Cyber surveilling me. Monitoring my messages. Isolating me. This is not an isolated incident. You should be looking at this cumulatively. But even if it was an isolated incident, that's still somebody who's threatened my life. Police officers should ask questions. Do you know this man? Why did he threaten your life? And then he can establish context. But no, immediately, as soon as I mention, but my life was threatened 30 minutes before coming to the station, all he says is, was the weapon drawn? It wasn't? Nothing we can do. No questions asked. Now, if you refer to my other videos, you'll know that before the interview even started, I was smart enough to think ahead. And I asked one of the female officers before the interview, do you know the time of the final train from Vienna main train station to Bratislava, Slovakia? She was aggressive with me. The tone of everybody at the station, all the police officers involved, very aggressive. They did not want me there. She said she would find out. Ultimately, she didn't. She lied. Now, that was me trying to protect myself. When I leave this station, if they're not going to give me protection, I'm going to have to make my own way out of this country. I need an escape route. It said on the note, I have so much information regarding sexual exploitation of schoolgirls, organized crime, systemic sexual exploitation of schoolgirls, grooming pipeline, organized criminality. I'm an informant. I want to give you all of this information. Interview me rigorously. I'll stay here all night if I have to. But in return, please, can you provide me with some kind of protection? Because my life's being threatened. So, it was not even considered. And so, immediately after leaving that police station, which, by the way, it's disturbing how 10 minutes into the interview, there's initially 3 officers, a female officer, a bald officer, who I believed was logging it initially, and then this male officer, who I often refer to as vaping officer. As soon as it becomes very apparent within 10 minutes of the interview that I'm educated, I know exactly what I'm talking about, I know exactly what I've seen, I understand all the grooming dynamics, I understand the psychology of these victims, I know exactly what's happening. The female officer leaves. Bald officer who was logging it leaves. The police station empties. There's no other police at that station. And then when I'm leaving, there's just 2 police with like rifles. It's intimidating. It was so weird. Just after everything I've been through, the immense pressure for months and the abuse. Again, these death threats, all of this abuse, everything that I've incurred, everything that I've had to suffer, on top of the vast amount of traumatizing information that I'm having to hold myself, live with every single day, organize in my head, these thoughts, they never leave me. I go to sleep thinking about all of this shit. And having my sexuality attacked, my own religion weaponized against me, being forced to disappear, delete all of my social media, told to kill myself. This interview process with the police was criminal in itself. I went there to transfer information and evidence to the police correctly, and that process in itself became highly criminal. So when I left that police station, I don't know how I'm holding it together. You know, I've been associating with drug dealers, gangsters for days. 10k to have these females released from the grooming network in the 22nd district of Vienna. Saloon bar and all the infiltrating Serbian gangs. You know, I've had to use cocaine myself just to earn trust with these guys. I'm alone, I'm cold, there's just cortisol coursing through my veins, adrenaline, and I leave this police station, and I have to immediately run to the train station and catch what is the final train from Vienna Hauptbahnhof to Bratislava in Slovakia to get out, to flee the country, because I don't feel safe there. Who would feel safe after everything I've been through? Would you feel safe? No, absolutely not. This is not paranoia. The threats, the information that I know, the death threats, the gaslighting, the fact that I'm literally having adult Serbian males threatening my life 30 minutes before going to the police station. I then witness blatant police corruption in the process. Everything's fucked up. This is not dramatic. I genuinely believe I have to just flee this country. I don't know what's going on anymore. None of this is right. So I flee, I get to Slovakia, I think, my god, I'm safe. But then I have to get from Petržalka to the old town. I then need to get from the old town to Hlavne, and then get a bus to the airport. I threw up. I get on the bus, I feel like I'm going to pass out. I've never felt so sick and ill in my life. I get to the Bratislava airport, I find a quiet little corner in the terminal, and I just curl up in a ball. I feel like I'm dying. I felt like I was going to die. And I don't remember getting my flight. I don't remember getting home. I don't know how I did it. So the question here, for the first time, I'm asking questions about myself. Why did the Viennese police do this? Why did they leave a civilian who came to them claiming his life was potentially in danger on the street? Why? That is incorrect procedure. Yes, they're coming here as an informant to report things, but when it says on the note that their life is potentially in danger, it's just had his life threatened, the priority becomes getting the civilian in the station as quickly as possible. That is correct procedure. But no, it's absolutely fucking disturbing. So if you go refer to my other videos, the grooming, everything that I know, all of the evidence, it's horrifying. And then it's just absolutely mortifying, disgraceful, disgusting, infuriating that the police know all of that information and literally reframed it all as legal, and we're not going to do anything. Right? So that's bad enough. But then we can also look at what the police did to me, how the police handled me and my situation, everything that I've gone through. Like, taken cumulatively, multiple people, multiple threats against my life, being threatened directly, being threatened for even going near the country, being threatened online, being targeted online, character assassination attempts, having my sexuality attacked, or my religion weaponized against me, attacking my religion, my identity, attempted identity erasure, devaluation, severe abuse, telling me to kill myself. And yet the officer just responds by saying, "Was the weapon drawn? No? Well, we can't do anything." Yes, you fucking can. When you look at all of that cumulatively, you absolutely can, and you should. And so it's just another in just a long line of catastrophic fucking failings in Vienna regarding multiple institutions, the police, education system, KGH, Kinderschutz, the organized crime, systemic organized sexual exploitation of children, attempted sex trafficking of children, child prostitution, provision of cocaine to children. Also, on top of that, domestic abuse. One of the victims has been domestically abused, sexually assaulted at home, split residence, neglect. That same female is being coerced by her only female friend at school, having her body leveraged in this grooming adjacent environment by that coercive female peer. All sexual risk is displaced onto the victim by her controlling coercive female peer, who doesn't have to engage sexually with any of these men, these hundreds of men at the saloon bar. She's literally exploiting the victim herself. So she's being exploited by all of these men in the environment. She's also being leveraged and exploited by her own friend, who is using her sexual appeal and her body. She's leveraging it to access that adult social space, that bar in the first place. She's then leveraging her body within that environment to procure alcoholic beverages through men, and then displacing all sexual risk onto her. The victim is the one who has to go to the toilet, sleeping with the bartenders. It's just so much. And you can see exactly why the police were so angry that I went there. You can see why the police instrumentalized the age of consent, minimized, reframed, dismissed. You can see exactly why. In that police station, you have me, one man. If you take this evidence, if you follow correct procedure, if you build cases, investigations, there's going to be prosecutions, trials, multiple systems going to have to be held accountable, internal reviews, reforms, so many things investigated. It's huge. So it snowballs. It becomes 1,000 problems the moment you take it seriously. But ultimately, it's all disseminating from one man, and he's sat in our station right now. You dismiss him, you get rid of him, 1,000 problems, they're suppressed. That is exactly what happened, clearly. But that is corruption. That is intent to conceal. Fuck me. Yeah, I had to flee Austria to Slovakia on a train under the cover of darkness. I don't even hold Austrian citizenship, okay? So this is a foreigner in your country, and you allowed this to happen to them. So I've talked about how this isn't a localized issue in Vienna because it involves multiple organizations and institutionals. Therefore, it's potentially an institutional problem. Therefore, it's potentially statewide. So it's not a Vienna problem. It's not a 22nd district problem. It's not a Vienna problem. It's potentially an Austria state level problem. But also, it's international. This is an international problem. I am not an Austrian citizen. This is international. It just gets fucking bigger and bigger. But ultimately, the police, how the fuck Do you think that you can get away with this blatant misconduct? Just neglecting me like that as a civilian in danger, that in itself is so fucking bad. And lastly, just as an addendum, I have vaguely outlined in this video that law enforcement is not the only institution that is failing catastrophically in Vienna. It's also the education system and the integrated safeguarding framework of the education system. Multiple institutions and organizations. But when I refer to the school, it's not just that the integrated safeguarding is failing catastrophically. Hundreds of risk indicators across their female students being ignored for 7 years in their system and under their supervision and duty of care. No, there so many disturbing things are occurring at the school. As I mentioned in my other videos, you have employees of the school, security guards, engaging sexually with 16-year-old female students at proms. You have these young schoolgirls, these female students, claiming that they have sexual designs on several adult male teachers. They want to have sex with their adult male teachers. But there's also rumors circulating amongst the other students that these females want to have sex. Oh, sorry. This one particular female, there's rumors circulating about her that she sleeps, not wants to sleep, sleeps with the male teachers. Now, if we look, for example, at what this schoolgirl is saying, that she wants to fuck her teachers, but also there's rumors circulating amongst her peers that she fucks her teachers. Those rumors have originated from somewhere. Those students have observed something that's highly suspicious. What exactly is happening there? But also international school trips. So Malta, the school flies their students to Malta, and there's two students in particular, two schoolgirls, and these two schoolgirls are deeply embedded within the sexually exploitative network, the grooming pipeline at the saloon bar in the 22nd district. So on this international school trip to Malta, these two females in particular somehow, inexplicably, managed to access an adult social environment, a bar, a nightclub. They consume alcohol illegally. They are aged only 15 at this point. Isn't the age of consent 16 in Malta? Anyway, so they get intoxicated on the strong alcohol that they're provided illegally at this nightclub, and they engage sexually with adult men in their 30s. Incredibly, this is documented. There's photographic evidence of this. The other female captured evidence of this interaction between this 15-year-old schoolgirl and this adult male at this bar. Possibly this is for leverage, I don't know, that's just supposition, but this is the coercive female peer who is actively leveraging the other schoolgirl, the victim at critical risk, leveraging her body in the grooming environment back in Vienna, at the saloon bar. This female peer is extremely coercive, so it could have been evidence for leverage over the other female, I don't know. But ultimately, that evidence exists. That is empirical evidence. So, provision of strong alcohol to minors, sexual activity with underage females below the age of consent in a foreign country. This is all under the school's supervision on an international school trip out of Austria to Malta. When you're taking students out of the country on an international trip to an international destination, you need to know where those students are, their whereabouts at all times. The teachers should be hyper-vigilant in this situation. Supervision should be even more stringent. You need to know the whereabouts of your students on international trips in foreign locations. Basic safeguarding. Because if something happens to those students the employee of the school, the teacher, entrusted to supervise these students, they're going to be prosecuted. For example, there was a case in the UK, I think this was in the 90s, school trip to, I can't remember where it was, the Lake District, perhaps. Extremely poor supervision of the students. Female entered the water, drowned, died. And the teacher was prosecuted. Why the teacher? Because he was the one employed to supervise those students and ensure their safety. So this is really fucking bad, right? And there is photographic evidence of this. And furthermore, if you want even more corroboration, the school looks back in its records. Did we have an international school trip in 2024 to Malta? Yes, you did. That can be confirmed instantly. Now, how on earth would I know that? How could I possibly know that if this was not true? Another example, Italy, 2025. So if that wasn't bad enough, it's occurred again. International school trip to Italy in 2025, high-risk sexual activity occurred, again documented. Again, in 2025, international school trip to Bratislava, Slovakia, it occurred. It's occurring so often under school supervision. And if these young females are able to evade authority, the teachers, so easily, then all females who enroll at this school, the females currently enrolled, the ones who enroll at the future, could just do exactly the same thing. And eventually, it's going to lead to disaster. So for anybody thinking I just have some kind of vendetta against the school or against the police, no. It's because this needs to be addressed. It's so serious. As I already mentioned in this video, the police are never going to get this amount of information regarding systemic organized sexual exploitation of schoolgirls, a grooming pipeline, and yet they still don't take it seriously. They still don't want to intervene. So if in this case they're not going to do it, imagine all the other grooming pipelines, all the other schoolgirls who've been groomed in Vienna, in Austria, where it's completely compartmentalized, fragmented. They don't have this amount of evidence. So you see my point. There needs to be so much external scrutiny of the police as an institution, because this needs correcting. And likewise, the school, there needs to be so much external scrutiny of this school. They need to be held to account, but the reason they need to be held to account is because they need to improve imminently. This is critical. So yeah.